How's it going, guys? I'm Mike, I go by Hawk, and in today's video, I'm going to be covering the live stream the devs did on the 15th. I was in the Discord, so I was watching live, and Orange on Discord was wonderful. He took a bunch of notes for us and said it was okay for us to use them for purposes like this. And I really appreciate him doing that, so shout out to Orange. Now, I will say that I have deviated heavily from his notes because I have rewatched the live stream many times here on YouTube, and I've been doing my best to pick apart the details that I could glean from it and what I think is worth bringing out to you guys. So basically they're talking about content update 1. As you'll see, I've got some footage in the background here. I'm going to turn down the volume on that a little bit so it's not washing me out, but we've got content update 1 here shown on this screenshot that I got pulled up, and this was taken from their stream. So what they're covering here is hangar vendors, melee weapons, more sectors, and sector modifiers. Now these things, if you look at the original roadmap, which I've got here, you'll see that this kind of stuff was supposed to come in Q1 of 2026. So the fact that they're already saying this October we will be getting these items is pretty awesome. I'd say that's a little ahead of schedule. Provided, of course, that they weren't just, setting things out on a date further out than they anticipated they'd actually have it done in order to, give themselves a little leeway, which, if they did, I completely understand. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and get stuck into it. So first things first, this was their second live stream since early access launched. They opened up with their usual greetings. Philip Coyonis here. And this is Jump Space, and Groove, he cracked wise, said, "I'm a robot that converts water into funny posts. I'm the community manager." And he had a beer mug full of water, as I do here. And then we also got to see Alphonse, the animator, for the first time. Spoken with him a few times on Discord, and if you're on the Discord, you've probably chatted with him yourself, but this is the first time we saw him on camera, I believe, so pretty cool. At any rate, they did bring out that they are actively working on the Xbox issues. I know on Xbox Series S, people have been having a great deal of difficulty, unfortunately. They did say that they've discovered 2 memory leaks that are causing a lot of the problems there, and that they are working on getting them fixed. However, it is not possible to have all 16 people in the team working on that, because not only do they have other things to work on, but not everybody's capable of handling that task. You're not going to have artists and animators working on coding, guys, so they really only have 1 or 2 people that really are capable of handling the particular issues that Xbox players are experiencing, and that's part of the reason why it's taking so long to get all of that squared away, because it is kind of a show that is requiring a lot of effort, but they have very few people that can actually work on it. So please be patient with them, guys. They are working on it. I do know that they rolled out a patch, I believe it was today, for Xbox, so that's pretty cool. Next up, they brought out, let's see, they brought out that the server browser was going to be updated on Steam, and indeed it was. That was done, and it's seems to be working now. I've been playing with randoms and having no trouble, so great deal of fun. First up, so let's just pull up some of these screenshots. I'm just going to go ahead and pause that background play. I just want to give you guys a quick glimpse of what they showed here. This was their dev screen. I don't know what the official name is for here, but from this, they could spawn in all kinds of things, and they were showing us all kinds of cool stuff. And I've got some footage that they showed of things they spawned in and stuff that they did. Not super relevant. It's kind of cool that they've got it so nicely laid out. And so we've got that. I thought that was pretty cool. I'll just show it real quick. Not super relevant to the details. At any rate, in the somebody pointed out in Reddit that maybe this was a new ship here. I'm just going to pull the image up here. Notice that it's got 4 units of shield and 5 units of health and no ship name, but it only maxes out at 300 materia. It is possible that this is a new ship, because we do know they are working on more ships. However, I would like to point out that when they were displaying the Dart, it was showing the same materia cap. So even though it's only got 2 shields, and actually it's got 5 pips of health here instead of the 4 that we're accustomed to, so I'm assuming this is probably like a Mark 1 Dart. Yeah, it's still got the 300 materia cap. So something tells me that's probably something relevant to the devs and is not really something that we're going to experience in game. At any rate, something that I thought was pretty cool here was that they were showing in the new ship here, they actually had somebody named Qui-Gon Jinn, so you can definitely see the sci-fi roots here. These guys, they know their sci-fi, they love their sci-fi. You'll notice that in one of these screenshots, so they actually had the old name up in the title, up in the Unity engine, and that was Hyperspace. This game used to be called Hyperspace Pirates of Atira. In fact, you can see some of the old footage from early dev on Cleonis' YouTube channel, which is actually pretty cool. Little piece of history to go check back on. All right, but into the more important details and the fun stuff. So right now, we have no set date for when this update is coming out, or even when it's going to the experimental branch. They did say that it will be going to the experimental branch in the next 1 to 2 weeks, but they didn't give us a specific time because they do have things to work out. And then they did say it was an October update, so we can expect that to go live most likely before the month is out, barring any issues. They're going to continue to work on optimizations for PC and Xbox, obviously, which could delay things for Update 1, but hopefully not. So now into the main points here. We got current game state. They're working on more stability issues, etc., aiming to take care of the 2 memory leaks that they found. They brought out that they will be working on this game for at least the next 2 years solidly, and that they've earned enough funds to accommodate that from sales. In fact, they brought out that at this point the game has sold 400,000 copies, so that's pretty incredible. That's a great start for this early access. And remember, Cleonis, he did say once 1 million sales happen, we're getting a really cool battleship. So we're getting closer, guys. We're almost halfway there. That's awesome, and it's only been, what, a month, so that's pretty cool. We're making good progress. Next point. Big thing here is that they showed us melee weapons. I mean, we're getting melee weapons. That was already in the roadmap, and it was something that they discussed. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and we'll pull up that video, and I'll just kind of talk over it as you guys can see it here. So basically, we're getting melee weapons. So far they've shown a big wrench and the crowbar, as you see here. It was brought out that you can block, which blocks about 50%-ish damage. They're in God mode here, so they're not taking any damage, but it was interesting that you can block damage, but you can also do a parry. If you time the block at the right time, you can actually send bullets back at the opponents. Now, those bullets do not auto-track. As you see, he's having to aim it, because if he parries it and he's not aiming at the robot, the bullets just fly right past him, which was something that I know is not something they mentioned, but I thought was an interesting point. They did mention that they're probably not going to have the crowbar parrying forever. That is more of a test for future weapons. They did say there is a potential third weapon, but they didn't really tell us much about it. They brought out that the third strike in the attack combo, which you'll see in this clip, is actually the most powerful strike and will actually one-shot many of the bots, whereas you see these guys are not being one-shot by the first 2 strikes. They really want the melee weapons to be growing into good options, and that you guys are going to be wanting to use. They basically said that they want it to be as viable an option to pick as any of the other weapons, such as your LMGs, etc. And there are more to be coming. I really would like to see something like this hammer. I just stole this screenshot from off their desk in their live stream. Something like this, maybe with we'll say some energy components to it. That would be that'd be pretty sick. It's probably Mjolnir or something, because I mean they are from Sweden, but a hammer with some kind of energy component would be actually pretty cool. Just my thoughts, though. They did say that you get different attacks when you are in the air or when you're crouching. And that they're talking about adding potential melee-centric enemies to the game, which would be pretty interesting. It's brought out that the melee weapons do not consume ammo, so taking, say, 2 weapons, a melee weapon and maybe something that's good at long range, would actually be very viable. It would help you to conserve ammo up close, and as well as block damage and parry, etc. It just sounds like a lot of fun. Personally, I'm probably going to run a javelin and a melee weapon. That just sounds like a lot of fun to me. They're talking about player trait system. Now, they're calling it right now internally a player trait system. So we don't know what all that's going to entail. They said it probably won't be like a proper skill tree, but maybe like a smaller kind of idea that is similar, but not quite as robust. But in that, they said that they were talking about making it where you could actually spec into melee damage in that player trait system. So that's actually kind of a cool idea. They temporarily, while displaying some of the melee stuff, showed us a third-person view. Now, mind you, they're not saying that a third-person view is coming. That was purely for the devs so they could check things. It is worth noting that pretty much as soon as they did that, it broke, and then the weapon was invisible in his hand and things like that. And they said, that's basically why we don't have third-person in the game. This game is designed for first-person, and it does break when you go into third-person, so... Not saying there will never be a third person, guys. I'm just saying right now that is not in the cards. Alright, future things that they are going to be adding is... actually, let's go ahead and pause this background video, and I will show you guys. They showed off some boost pads very quickly around the same time that they were showing that... around the same time that they were showing their footage... So they showed off these boost pads here, guys, and basically they were talking a little bit about the game Quake when they were doing this, but basically what they showed off here is that while this is not anything that they have currently designed, this is something that we might be getting in the future. And as you can see, when he hits this, he just gets flung across the map, which is actually pretty sick. So I'd love to see that in submissions, just more movement options. Yes, please, I will take it. At any rate, that was what we had there. And aside from the boost pads, they also showed us that there will be some holiday things coming. So as you can see here, it briefly showed off that Boas here, he had a pumpkin helmet on his head. Yeah, so there will be holiday events. They said that it's not just going to be cosmetics, but it's going to be actual events that you can engage in. Sounds very similar to, say, Deep Rock Galactic. So... that is something that, if that's something you're into, you can look forward to. Now next, we had vendors, and I'm just going to pull up the video that they had here. And basically, the way vendors work is we have got a little bit of RNG. Basically, there is a pool that the items can be pulled from, and then it's RNG what you're going to get for these items. Now, this is also true of the weapons, which they'll display in a moment. You basically have Mark 1 of every kind of weapon, and you could potentially get higher marks based upon random pulls. At any rate, these things cost money. As you can see, he's got repairs here, he's got materia, it looks like an ammo crate there. And as soon as he's marking these things, it's withdrawing the funds from his reserves there. So 1,000 credits here on Pineapple Power on that artifact, 1,000 there on Numb Carnage. And as you can see, it takes 1,000 out of his reserve immediately as soon as he's clicked on that. Up here, we're going to see that there is weapons and various items that you can take with you. They're being called preparation items. Basically, they want the preparation items to be fulfilling, and they want them to be a part of the fantasy. And they're talking about adding missions that'll be so hard that you'll absolutely need to grab preparation items before you can actually even tackle these missions. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some tryhards of us out here challenging ourselves. I'll probably do it myself to try and do those very same missions without the preparation items, but you know, you do you. And then yeah, like I said, different marks will be possible there. For the weapons, they were going between 800 credits and 1,500 credits, so 1,500. So not cheap, but not super expensive, given the fact that we've all had a chance to really stock up credits. And then also they showed that there are actually beers here. They showed Jump Brew and they showed Christmas Must. Then those also cost money. Those were 10 credits, I believe, a piece. So no bar at this time, though that's something that's in discussion. But the beers are coming back to the hangar, and that should be in this update, guys. So that's pretty cool. And like I said, with the boost pads, that's not going to be in this update. It's just something that they have in the works, and they temporarily showed it off for us. So there will be a bar at some point in the hangar, but currently, right now, all we've got is the beers that we can purchase. They did bring out at this time that they're very open to feedback, guys, and they brought out that a lot of the things that are in this game at this point, such as weapons carrying over or having multiple inventory slots, period, as there really was only one dedicated weapon slot and then your pistol before, things like that were actually requests from alpha players, which I was in the beta. I wasn't in the alpha, so we have them to thank for these things being in. They did mention briefly that they understand people are not real happy about the current state of the inventory system, and that they will be adjusting that in the future. So that is something that is coming, what they're working on. Yeah. Coolio was actually on the player feedback side. Please write angry things. It shows us you care. But guys, be nice to the devs. Yeah. All right. We do know currently that sector events happen more frequently based upon the amount of players you have in your lobby, the amount of time, apparently the amount of time that you're in a particular sector actually affects whether or not things are going to happen as well. If you're just taking so long, then things are getting thrown at you. And then also it's based upon difficulty as well, as scales with difficulty. But they did specify that we will be getting sector modifiers, and that was actually kind of interesting. The sector modifiers are going to look like this. Basically, they were showing us onside they were in the catamaran, and they were checking out the jump map. But as you can see, you can actually see all kinds of weird animations going around the sectors themselves that we don't currently have in game. So this is pretty cool. Speaking of the sector modifiers, some of them are good, some of them are bad. The visuals are not done yet, and some of this stuff is a little bit placeholder, but they brought out that there will be active events such as Legion Strike Force was one of the modifiers that we saw. And basically with that, there will be, as soon as you jump in the area, an immediate countdown until an attack is coming. So you're really on a timer before you're getting ambushed, and that's pretty interesting. Some of them, as you'll see here, are Materia Cloud Rich. That just means there's going to be a ton of materia in the area. Ion Rift is an interesting one, which they showed just a moment ago. Basically, the Ion Rift is going to be causing a persistent ion storm. And they showed us a bit of what that's going to look like on the power grid here. And they said, no, they can get worse than this. This is kind of mild here. They're just showing that at all times, these squares, when you're in an ion rift, will be red. So if it is not a protected square, it is completely out of commission, which can make your particular build on your ship a little bit of a problem if it's not accommodating for these. So this will make protected squares even more important than they currently are in the game. Right now, they protect from radiation, but in ion rifts, I can see that being extremely helpful. They said that there's another one that's called High Legion Presence. It basically means that there will be an increased amount of enemy ships, a higher ratio of elite ships, and a higher amount of enemies, period. Another one they mentioned is Weapon Stash, which basically a Weapon Stash is a modifier where they are going to have... They're going to have basically a buoy or something that has a ton of extra weapons in it. And they said that you'll have a higher chance of having higher mark weapons in those weapon stashes. However, you can expect in areas where there is a weapon stash, there to be an increased amount of difficulty, other modifiers causing problems, negative modifiers, such as Ion Storms and Legion Presence. So that was interesting. They brought out that the modifiers are stackable, which, I mean, you saw in the clip that I did. There was a good one and a bad one, but I suspect you could get multiple of either, and that would be interesting. They brought out that it is not intended for this update, but sector modifiers are planned for the final missions. Because modifiers do have a huge impact on the mission right now, they're kind of worried about balance for the final mission, and the final jump in the mission, and changing things up and making it really difficult, but it is something that they're planning, they're doing some work on. And they're probably going to have specific modifiers for in jumps, not just the generic ones that we've shown you here. Not saying that these are generic, they're actually pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to them because I think it's going to add a lot of interest to what we're doing. It's going to add extra things for us to do, to take into consideration, which is going to make things more interesting. And also it's going to add some extra challenge, which I know I personally was hoping that they would add extra challenge. So I'm pleased to see that. They're going to be making the modifiers in such a way that they're going to make it relevant which components you're taking. They brought out that such as components that may or may not be super viable right now, that they are probably going to be a lot more viable when we have these modifiers in play, such as the single space engine, the microplasma engine that everybody hates. But hey, if you're having trouble fitting everything into protected squares and you're planning on doing ion shifts, then it might be the engine to pick. And other things like that. They basically are wanting to make player choice more important. And so they're trying to give us more chaos. And I like that. I think it's going to keep the game interesting and make things more fun. Other modifiers that they mentioned are that they're thinking about adding things that are going to make the engineer's job more important, managing components, managing the power grid, etc. And also things that are going to make a possible one is making it where the assembler costs twice as much to craft anything. So that would make those particular sectors really challenging if you got to craft repairs. And they mentioned that for specific modifiers for what they're adding to the game right now, there are about 6 to 8. They didn't give us a specific number, but they said between 6 and 8 modifiers currently that are in this update and that we will be having added when this update goes live. And that there will be different severity on the various modifiers. So it will be different difficulty levels, basically. All right, now speaking more about sectors, they said that there are about 6 to 7 new sectors or new levels, whatever you want to call them, that are coming to the game in the next update. They're going to look different. They're going to play different. Not that the gameplay is going to change drastically between what we already have, but it is going to be new areas to play with new things to do. They also said that right after the update, you will be more likely to get those. In the randomizer, they're going to be bumped up a little bit in percentage chance of happening, so we'll have a chance to experience those new sectors rather than getting the old ones over and over, and that'll give us a better chance of getting them. Then they mentioned rough fixes to the Dart. Right now people are complaining about mobility around the Dart, getting to the bottom of it to collect the materia, getting to the top to repair the shields, etc. And to be fair, it's a bit of a pain, particularly if you're doing multiplayer, 4-player especially. It can be really a pain to get those things done. They did show us a quick fix that they have done. So what they said they're doing as a quick fix to this issue of people being able to get around the Dart is they're adding these quick access hatches that will teleport you to the top or bottom of the ship, respectively, depending on which one you go in. Eventually, they said that Alphonse is going to add an animation to this to make it more interesting, and they might even add a little bit of a friction on using these to make it where it's not so quick and easy, since the Dart's pretty easy to get around anyway. But yeah, this is their quick fix that they are implementing now. As far as adding a pizza maker or an ammo station to the Dart, these things are in discussion. Nothing is determined at this time, so it is, they said, to be determined. But they are going to be adding higher marks to both ships, to the Catamaran and the Dart, than what we currently have. That's something that will be coming, not necessarily in this update, but something that we can look forward to. They did bring out that it is going to be harder to fit things into the Dart because it is a smaller ship and it is very compact. They also mentioned that you saw them fading to white when they were doing that teleporting between the in the hatches, and they said they're going to change it to fading to black just to make it easier on everybody's eyes, but it is temporary placeholder until Alphonse can create animation for it. So that was all the discussion we had on the Dart, and hopefully that alleviates some of your guys' issues with it. Personally, I find the Dart wonderful, and in fact you can see in this background footage that's what I'm using. But yeah, it's really powerful for dogfighting, but I do understand the mobility complaints. Anyway, they talked about the escape hatches as being something that they might potentially add to other ships later, but for, you know, going out and jetpacking and catching, boarding enemy ships, but again, to be determined, nothing is solid there. They did say that they're going to be adding greater enemy spawns for solo players and 2 players. Right now, sometimes the areas can feel a little sparse, not a lot to do, not a lot to experience, kind of easy. So basically what they're going to do is, rather than spawning a bunch of heavy things that are going to be hard for a single player or 2 players to deal with, they're going to be spawning in a lot of smaller things and just increase the amount that we will be having to deal with, just so it doesn't feel as empty. They did say that there will be probably sector modifiers will also increase, add interesting things for us to see beyond just extra enemies. They said maybe people needing help or things like that, and that would be kind of interesting. And they alluded to basically more things to help populate the areas that we're jumping to and make it more interesting. More things to see, more things to do. So pretty cool. They spoke briefly about the prayer trait system, which I mentioned it already, but basically it's not a skill tree per se, but kind of a lighter version of a skill tree, and it's going to give an extra sense of player. It's going to be upgraded based on player level and basically give you an extra sense of progression, a way to upgrade yourself, your character, and that's, I believe, planned for content update 2. But they're also mentioning that there'll be alternatives to the multi-tool and things that they're talking about now. So right now we've got the pistol, but they're talking about doing other things. And they said maybe a melee option instead, which is actually kind of a cool idea. Maybe a machine gun pistol, maybe a revolver. Most of that's still to be determined. Nothing is definitive yet. And then they mentioned that they are, because of recent issues with servers, etc., they are putting offline mode in a much higher priority than it was previously. So that is something that they're working on and they plan to implement relatively quickly. No guarantees on when that's coming, but it is something that they are working on and want to get done pretty quick. Grenades, not in this update. They existed in the game previously, and they said they worked really weird with the gravity. They were tied to the physics, the same physics that affected the football. And basically, the football was causing problems where it was causing the servers to crash and was causing all kinds of issues, particularly in multiplayer. And that was why it ultimately got removed temporarily. And they added the funny little thing with the ball being broken and the pump being broken and the letter from Buzz saying, hey, I'm going to fix it soon. The grenades are basically the same. They are affected by the same strange mechanics and need some reworking. Just like the football. They said basically you can probably expect them to come hand in hand. When the football's fixed, the grenades will also be coming. And they said expect things like sticky grenades, etc. So that'll be fun. That's something to look forward to. They mentioned that they are aware about the inventory slot issues and restrictions that people are talking about. They are working on it and discussing it in-house and what they need to do to fix it and try to make everybody happy. So basically they're talking about the Railgun, and basically they're giving in to popular demand. So basically they are going to be restoring...
For the Railgun, I'm like, fine, you want it to be this freaking overpowered sniper thing with super long range, alpha strike, blah 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 blah. Okay, I'll make that happen.
But nerf it in like another way to make it.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to, otherwise it would be absolutely crazy. But yeah, I will put it in. I don't think we have time now to put in the update 1. I think it will just sneak in one of the small fixes, like it's just settings. I haven't had time to fix it, but yes, you will get it.
Okay, guys, so you heard it. The range is coming back to the Railgun. I know that was a big complaint. That would be wonderful. They did say they're going to add some kind of nerf in another way to kind of balance it. But
for the Railgun, I'm being like, fine.
Let's.
You want it to be?
Can we appreciate this little happy dance that Groove does here?
Super long range, alpha strike, blah 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 blah.
I mean, come on, guys, that's great. All right. So yeah, Railgun. What you guys have been asking for, they're taking your feedback and they're going to implement it, guys. So that's pretty cool. They also mentioned dedicated slot for weapons. That's kind of what we have, guys. The dedicated slot for the weapons are the free slots. The dedicated slot for the originally it was only one slot, and the alpha tester said, "Hey, this isn't enough. We won't win that." And people have also been saying, "What about a dedicated slot for the multi-tool?" Well, that's what we have right now. They said. I mean, and I agree. I mean, as you can see here in my footage, that number one slot is dedicated to multi-tool. You can't move it from that spot. You can't remove it. You can't set it down. You can't. That slot is specifically for the multi-tool. You can't put anything else in there. That's what it's for. And then you have 3 other slots that you can do whatever you want with. So that's kind of what we have there. And they addressed it in that manner. They did something they briefly touched on. Can we get deployable equipment for, say, item teleportation? Yeah, they actually said that that was something that was in the game and that they had to remove it for reasons. But they also mentioned deployable turrets might be something that will be coming later. So that would actually be pretty cool. That would be kind of fun to play around with. And then also remote recalls, something that you could take with you, an item to recall yourself to the ship. They said that they actually had that in the game, and it was actually a little too broken. It was a little too powerful. Kind of removed some of the fun of the game. So they removed it, but it's not guaranteed that it won't be coming back, but no promises at this time. All right, and then they said hangar power grid. Now this is something that people have been asking for. Frankly, I would love to see this, is being able to set up your power grid from the hangar. So like if you've installed a ton of components and you want to make sure that they're going to fit before you get into mission, you need a power grid in the hangar that you can customize before you get into mission. That's going to affect your mission, your run. And right now that's not a thing we have, but they did say that that is coming. They said there's going to be a big rework overall for the power grid, and once they commit to that, they will add the power grid to the hangar so that you can set it up then. Now, a lot of these points at this point that we're getting to, guys, now this is stuff that they were taking from the Q&A section. These were questions people were asking about specifically, and these were the answers that they were giving. So this is not coming in this update, and the Lance Railgun fix is not something that are coming in an update. You heard it on their video. They said it's probably something they're going to slip into a small patch rather than in one of the big updates. Next up, it was mentioned that maybe missions with, there will be actually maybe missions with power grid puzzles. They were speaking specifically about maybe like stations. I'm thinking like space stations, but they didn't specify. But stations that have like puzzles that require you to manage a power grid on the station, not just the one in your ship. And that could actually be pretty interesting. So basically, that was all the points that they brought up from their live stream, guys. That was everything that we learned and that we were able to glean from it, or everything that I noticed. If you notice anything that I didn't, that's great, let me know. They did close out by saying they plan to do these live streams every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on when they have something big to talk about. So far they've done 2 since early access. That's pretty good. I mean, the game's been out for, what, a month? So they're expecting every 2 to 4 weeks they'll be chatting with us and telling us what's in the pipeline, what we can expect, what will be coming in the future. So anyway, guys, that is basically everything I would glean from the live stream. I hope that this is helpful to you or interesting. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. If you have anything that you'd like to add, something I missed that you thought was interesting, go ahead and let us know down in the comments. I will do my best to respond to you guys and to take anything that you say into consideration. And if it's really interesting and I think it needs to be noticed, I will maybe make a video about it, maybe a short or something. At any rate, guys, that's it for this one. I hope you all are having a great one. I'll catch you in the next one. Later.